Doctor Who, the BBC's long-running science fiction television drama series. For 60 years, this British television programme has been frightening and entertaining audiences, not only across the nation, but the entire world, and possibly the entire universe. From the terrifying theme, to sensational scenes, lines, and characters.
Got some carrots.
Carrots? Are you insane? No, wait, hang on. I know what I need. I need fish fingers and custard.
So please, relax and enjoy this documentary as we take you on a journey through the whole of time and space, searching for an answer. Has Doctor Who had a cultural impact?
Anyone for dodgems?
This is Doctor Who at 60. Part 1A, the classic era, 1963 to 1989. So, the first question is, which is your favourite classic era Doctor and why?
I can answer that for him. It's William Hartnell, of course.
Oh, I'm not that old, man.
No way.
No, I'm not that old. Sylvester McCoy, 80s, when I was a bairn.
John Pertwee, yeah. Love John Pertwee. Tom Baker, followed on beautifully, but John Pertwee for me.
Oh, Doctor, why did you have to go back?
I had to face my fear, Sarah.
I'd say the fourth, because, I don't know, I just really like him as a character, and I like, I don't know, just him as a general character, really. But, yeah, I like his episodes and his, era throughout the Doctor Who series.
I know everyone likes Tom Baker, and I've seen a handful of clips and episodes with Tom Baker episodes. So those ones are the ones that I remember the most. He seems to be the standout Doctor of that era.
Would you like a jelly baby?
Well, I think with Doctor Who, it's a product of the time, really, isn't it? So if you go through all the decades, each Doctor kind of represents, a bit like James Bond, the character at the time of that decade. So obviously, if you think about the classic Doctors, where there was stereotypically an older man, wise, eccentric, more like a mad scientist in some ways, But then as obviously the years have progressed, we got into the 80s with Sylvester McCoy, and that was kind of a little bit more menacing, a bit cheesy.
I just like classic era overall. I feel like when it first came out, it was a lot different to what was out at the time, and it was something that was new and exciting. So I feel like it's something that did change the media industry, especially BBC.
I do appreciate that. I kind of like that they didn't really have an awful lot to work with. They didn't have a lot of budget a lot of the time. Some of the, there was wranglings at the BBC and stuff going on in the background, and there's all this sort of intrigue and stuff. So I appreciate that they tried to do their best with the little that they'd gotten. But it did lay the groundwork. I mean, like that very first episode has the police box, and the premise was set. It was a really strong idea or a strong premise, because it continues to this day.
Part 1B, the TV movie, 1996.
I think with Paul McGann's Doctor, I think he kind of got a little bit shortchanged, because I think he was an absolutely perfectly fine Doctor. Obviously he only had the feature-length film, which I still remember watching because it got broadcast on BBC One as this massive event, and it flopped. It found its audience as time progressed.
I haven't seen the TV movie with Paul McGann in it, but I have listened to a few of the Big Finish audio adventures with Paul McGann in it, and I really do like him as the Doctor. But again, that was just audio, radio plays essentially, so I haven't seen him on screen. I did see him in those little clips, those short little things they made for the 50th anniversary, and those like short episodes.
The mini episodes.
The mini episodes, yeah.
The Night of the Doctor.
Yeah. So I've seen him in that, and I really like Paul McGann.
I think I remember one thing, it had a massive audience numbers, but I remember it got released as a video as a big event just after it, and it flopped on the video market. And I always remember Eric Roberts playing the Master, which was a big deal for me at the time, because I'm an 80s kid, so I used to watch all the action films in the 80s and such. And I think the effects were good, the budget was good.
Part 2, the theme.
Now, most tunes have got a three-part structure. You've got a rhythm, you've got a melody, and you've got the sort of twiddly bits on top. So we created 3 separate tapes, put them onto 3 machines, and stood next to them and said, ready, steady, go, and pushed all the start buttons at once. It seemed to work. In those days, it was obvious if there was a wrong note, how to find out. You simply unrolled all the tape down the floor, walked along the sticky tape joins, and where 2 sticky tape joins weren't next to each other, that was the wrong note. So that was that. And we played it to Ron, yes, lovely, and it became the theme that we grew to love.
I like it. I feel like it really does fit the overall genre of it, and I feel like that's what kind of made Doctor Who really like. It's obviously the opening sequence, I guess. And as soon as you hear that tune, it can get the audience really excited because they know what's going to come up, and I think it really set the tone for the series.
Delia Derbyshire, she's an absolute legend. The Radiophonic Workshop there, it wasn't just the Doctor Who theme tune that was created in that workshop. It was all sorts of very experimental, very new, modern. Obviously for the time, and it's stood the test of time, the Doctor Who theme, of course. But it's so highly respected. In retrospect, probably didn't receive the recognition that she deserved, or her team as well deserved, for all their work. But it was groundbreaking. Overdubbing and mixing, remixing, all on 1/4-inch tape. Which is it's not digital, so it's no mean feat really. So absolutely love it, and I do sort of, when they tinker with it, and they have over tinkered with it at times, I think they brought it back a little bit to what it was originally, but it doesn't need tinkering with. It's just perfect as
it's timeless.
Yeah,
it's timeless. I mean, even though it's been updated as the years progressed, the core. For me, whenever you hear that, you know exactly what's coming, and then my heart drops in the darks.
I think as soon as you hear it, you know it's Doctor Who. Like you just hear, even if it's in like on the radio, you would know exactly what it is. So they've done well to have a theme tune which stands on its own, and obviously they changed the intro visually, but you always know, even if you're in a different room, you would always know that's Doctor Who. I think that's a really good thing they've sort of selected. I think it does sound sci-fi where it comes in. It obviously plays the police box. That sounds, I think that brings that in as well, which is great. That sounds futuristic and sci-fi.
Yeah, it does. I think it does. I think the theme tune does set the tone like really well. It's kind of, I mean, it's gone through many different renditions, hasn't it? Like sometimes it's a bit more orchestral, and sometimes it's a bit more sort of thin sounding and sort of sci-fi sort of theremin sounding a little bit. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but yeah, no, I think it does set the tone really well. Like that sort of cosmic anything could happen sort of weirdness. I kind of like it.
Part 3. The Contemporary Era, 2005 onwards.
My favourite contemporary Doctor is gotta be Tennant. Because I think that even though Chris Eccleston did a great job, I think David Tennant fully embodied the character, and there was something about his performance where he wasn't playing the Doctor, he is the Doctor, if that makes sense. Because he's such a sort of flexible talent, and he can deliver lines in a comedic way, sarcastic way, but he can also interact with other characters and other Doctors, as in when he meets with Matt Smith, and it just gels really well.
Oh, either Matt Smith or David Tennant. They're my two favourites. I really like David. I just really like them both actually, because they're just so like full of energy and they're always excited over the smallest things, and I don't know, I just love them both. I feel like they really fit the Doctors.
Yeah, I mean, my children's Doctor was David Tennant, and I do come to warm to David Tennant, but at the time I sort of wasn't so keen, but I totally feel that I'm wrong on that. To answer your question directly, for me it's Christopher Eccleston. I really liked his northernness and what that brought to the Doctor.
The leather jacket was cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and the issue perhaps initially that I had with David Tennant was because he replaced so quickly Christopher Eccleston, who I was really quite into as the Doctor.
So I think my favourite contemporary would be David Tennant. I grew up watching the more contemporary Doctor Who, especially when they came back on. Obviously it was really exciting, something different for like younger kids to watch, especially with all the makeup. It's definitely more advanced. Obviously there's still all the monsters and the creatures in the original Doctor Who's, but yeah, especially I feel like the creatures, the storylines got sort of a level up with David Tennant, so I think that's why he's my favourite Doctor, and he's had a lot of personality, humour, and he just was a bit more quirky, which I liked.
I mean, a part of me doesn't want to say David Tennant, but it's kind of David Tennant, you know what I mean? It kind of is. He's sort of reached, I guess, like Tom Baker sort of status for the new era. And it's you know, it's like I remember watching them when they were first broadcast in 2005, and I really liked Christopher Eccleston. He was the first Doctor I even saw. Like, I had no idea anything about the show before 2005, and then at the end of that season he goes and regenerates, and I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this new guy? And and then he spends half of his first episode like asleep. So we still don't know who he is. But then when he gets into it, and because David Tennant's such a good like actor, he's got such personality. I'm like, oh no, it's fine. He's going to do a good job. You always have that nervousness when there's a new Doctor. It's like, oh, am I going to like them? Am I going to get used to them? But no, I remember him definitely sort of, coming out strong and being like, oh no, this is definitely going to work. This is great. But setting David Tennant aside, I really like Peter Capaldi as well. Yeah. I like how Peter Capaldi can be sort of like really dark and serious and like grumpy kind of. But then there's another half to him. There's another side to him where he'll just, like, I don't know, play guitar on top of a tank in the Colosseum or whatever it was.
Pick a local. According to you, this is where the Doctor is.
Okay, how do we find him? How do we know what we're looking for?
Anachronisms. The slightest, tiniest. Anachronisms.
So there's, I think they got a good balance. There's some really good speeches that you get, really good like bits of like monologue dialogue that he delivered, and I just think that Peter Capaldi's really, I was a bit worried. Again, I was a bit worried that because he was announced, wasn't he? He was. They did like an announcement show, and I was like, oh, I've seen him in stuff before. He was in one of the previous episodes. He was in Torchwood. Is he really going to be? But then, when he gets into it, and I'm like, oh, this is how he's going to do it. This is how it's going to be played, and I'm here for it. I'm on board. Yeah.
I feel like it's really good because it still made Doctor Who from when obviously it was all the classical, and they really brought it into the modern time and kept it the same without changing it too much. I'd say I didn't, with the Jodie Whittaker series, I didn't really watch it, but from before that I really liked how when everything moved more modern, it just carried it with it and was still a very dominant series over a lot of the BBC things.
I know there's been a lot of controversy about her becoming the first female Doctor, and there was a lot of criticism for the show. I don't think she did a bad job at all. I think she was perfectly fine. I think what let her down was the scripts.
Yeah.
And I think she kind of got a bit of a short change. So everyone's kind of got the illusion that the reason why the ratings dropped during the Whittaker era is because of her being a female Doctor. No. It's not. It's because the writing was getting shabby.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, when I was at school, because this was 2005, I was in secondary school when the show started coming on again. It was like, I mean, between me and my friends who were perhaps a bit more nerdy than the average person, I suppose, but it wasn't just nerds who were into it as well. What I mean is, it was such a groundbreaking phenomenon at the time. Like, everyone was talking about it. All your friends at school would talk about it, and I don't know if that's still the case. It's been a long time since I was in school, but it genuinely did feel like this is like a big deal. It was the big show at the time, especially like those first 3 seasons. I know various different people drop off at different times, or what have you, but yeah, like those first 3 seasons coming back, it was like such a smash sort of phenomenon.
It's a bit more out there, I would say. More adventurous storylines, going further afield. It's more a lot more special effects, colours, more makeup. Obviously the Doctors are a bit more adventurous. You got different types of people.
Yeah, I think it is sort of by its very nature a completely inexhaustible premise, because every week can be something different. Every era can be something different in the way that it's presented, in the presentation, in the quality of the effects and the cameras, and the different things that the actors bring to it, the different elements that the different actors who play the Doctor can bring to it in each time. So it's a show that, like the main character itself, just regenerates itself over time. So it can be basically inexhaustible. It can go on forever and still be different each time, you know?
Inspired by the 60 years of Doctor Who that have been, I decided to simultaneously star and produce in my own parody of a regeneration scene. I first spoke to Chloe Malik of Media Makeup about the hair and makeup process.
So for this makeup, we did more of a natural, barely there makeup. So what we did is we used this is a makeup mixer, but basically it's more just like a moisturiser. You want to make sure you're giving the skin moisture back, because if you've got any dry patches or any spots that have got flakiness on the skin, that can show up when you start to put the foundation on. So you've got to make sure you've got a good base, and this you can use moisturisers, primers, which is really good. A primer is like if you're going to paint a wall, before you paint that wall you want to make sure you put a primer on first, which is what this is. So it's creating that good base. Then we went in with a foundation. I matched it to the skin tone first, and you do that by pumping it out like that, and I will just match it up against my skin tone, and once I know that that is the correct tone, I then apply it onto the skin using either, you can use your fingers or you can use sponges, brushes, and you're going to buff that into the skin to make sure it looks natural and cover up any sort of areas of spots, dark circles, just so it takes any redness out. Then what you do after that is you're going to apply a powder. Now this is for TV and film, so if you were going to go onto news or live TV, powder is very important, especially for men, because obviously you can get oiliness and that will shine under the light. So a good powder will make it not only last long, but it will take away any shine off the skin. And then so that goes all over the face, but if they do have any dry areas, I would avoid that. Then the next we're going to go in with is, because it was more of a natural look, and we've taken all the colour out of the skin with the foundation, we're then going to go in with some bronzer, because that will just give that warmth back to the skin. If someone's got more of a tanned complexion, this is great for giving them that bronze look. Obviously you don't want to go overboard, so we just did a natural look. And then we have these cream products, which come in various shades. And these can be used as lipsticks, so if you want to add a little bit of that tint back to the lip, doesn't have to be a full red lip. You can use it as a blusher. So because I've taken all the colour of the skin out with the foundation, add a little bit of that rosiness to the cheeks, we'll just add a bit more realism, and you can put a little bit on the nose, a bit on the eyelids, and that's basically all we did for the base, for the face. So we did this look in two parts. We first did the makeup, which I just described then after filming, came back and we applied a wig. So what we start first is smoothing all the hair back. So if you had longer hair, you could wrap it around, and then what you would do is you would take a wig cap, and that will go over the hair, keep it flat to the head, ready to put the wig on. So you've got the wig cap, which is basically like a tights that you wear on your legs. It's very similar, goes onto the head, and then that smooths out the hair. And then you've got the wig. So this was the wig we used in the filming. Just a blonde wig which matched the actor's natural hair colour, kind of, and it just created more of a grown out look. And then placing the front on first, over the top, and then hook it around the back because it has an elasticated sort of where the nape of the neck is, and pull it into position, and that's how we applied the wig for this filming.
I also spoke to media technician Carl Bark about the visual effects for the regeneration.
Tag. You're it.
Okay, so I've basically mocked up a version of the regeneration from Doctor Who. I mean, in the actual show itself, if we just look at this effect for a little bit, when it actually starts happening. So right there, I can see sort of all this energy coming out. So I'm just guessing, but I would guess that a lot of this is sort of procedurally generated particle effects, and I'll sort of explain about those in a second. Also, I can see a lot of glow. So there's a lot of sort of, it looks like part of it was lit up on set. So they use lights to light them up, but it also looks a lot like they've sort of added glow after the fact. So you can see this sort of a torrent, and then we've got a morph effect being hidden by all of this energy. So if you can see the hair popping out just there. Looks like a morph effect. So if I wanted to try and recreate that, which is what we've tried to do here. Whoops, I will fix that. So what we've tried to do here is sort of a similar kind of thing. Obviously, I didn't have time to sort of polish it the way that they might have done, but the basic components are, first of all, we have this effect on the skin. So that was basically we use chroma key to pick out the skin tones, and then you can generate this sort of pattern. Give me a sec. So you can generate this sort of pattern. So that's just procedurally generated, but we've tweaked it so that it sort of looks a bit sort of veiny and like there's sort of stuff going on underneath the skin, and then we used the matte that we had, so that it only applies to colours of that sort of colour, skin tone. Unfortunately, that also meant the door and the desks as well, because they're similar to skin tones, which is why I had to cut him out like this with this big shape. So then we have different particle effects. So I'll just explain what particle effect is. Like, if you want to animate lots of little things, it'd be unfeasible for you to go through each one of these little lines and put them in one by one and animate them individually. So basically what particle effects do is give you the ability to randomly generate a whole bunch of particles, and then you have various different controls that you can then alter them with. So if I go down here and change the type of pattern that it uses, so it's more of a swirly one. It's more of a vortex, and the vortex I believe is the one that I used for the regeneration effect. So we have, if I just solo those for a second, so yeah, all of these, like the jets of energy coming out of the coming out of the head and the hands, all of that was just particle effects. And on top of that, I have also added some blurring, some glow. So you can see here some artificial sort of glow to it on top of that, and a blur, so a radial blur on top of that, just to sort of soften it up a little bit. Give me a sec to collect my thoughts. Oh, right, so we've also got a lot of lighting effects. So if I just mute that, it's a lens flare effect. And I've also added another bit of artificial glow. So like, so that's lens flare, and that's a light rays effect. So that sort of adds a bit of extra light to it, just adds a little bit of something to it. The next shot is not quite completed, but you get the sort of gist. So it's the transformation shot. So if I turn the particles off and the lens flare off, which I'd have probably added more particles if I was going to continue with this. So we basically have one student's face sort of plastered over the top, and it sort of morphs a little bit and fades into this other student's face. Now that's not an amazing effect. If I was going to do this again for a real project, then I'd take extra care to film it properly on set. But I didn't, because it's just a little test, so we have to work with what we've got. So the first one is the morph, and then that looks kind of a bit weird, so I'm covering it over with a whole bunch of lighting and particle effects, so that we just about get away with it. So that's how I'd break down those effects just using sort of After Effects.
I spoke to Carl additionally about how he thought one of the title sequences from the 1980s was created.
Okay, so we've got this title sequence from the show that was done back in the 80s. So I'm not exactly sure how they pulled this title sequence off with the technology that they had, but you can recreate something quite similar to this sort of star field coming towards you effect in After Effects. Again, using a particle generator. So I've made that just really quick whilst we've been here, and basically I've changed it from, like, I mean, if you want to do the more Star Trek style one, you could change it to lines, but I've changed it to these like star shapes, this sort of bloom star shape effect, and basically what you have to do is tell it how many of these things you want it to make over a certain period of time. So on this parameter over here, it's called the birth rate. So that's how many of them it's generating at one time. The longevity, how long it lasts for. Yeah. So I've set it so that it's all shooting them out in one direction, because we can have it blow them about in many kinds of shapes. So you can have it like rotating, or doing all kinds of things, but I chose one where it basically just shoots it in one direction, and I have altered the direction so that it's facing us, so if I just show you this now, it's all going that way, but like what we had before, it's all coming towards the camera, and that's more or less it. It's I had to change the colour of the particles, but other than that, other than adding a little bit of glow to it just to make them a little brighter, which would make, if we had a background, it'd make them stand out a little as well. That's how I've recreated that basic effect. Again, if you were going to do this for a project, you might want to spend a little bit of time tweaking these controls to get it just perfect. Yeah. But that's how I'd recreate it, the effect they had to do, practically or in some analog fashion with the digital technology that we've got today.
Do you think Doctor Who as a whole has had a cultural impact?
Doctor Who has had a massive cultural impact. I mean, like I say, it's one of the biggest shows, still is. When it first released, it was once again families coming together. Because you've got to remember, Doctor Who actually was before Star Wars, was around, I think, before Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a black and white British staple. So
I think they may be. They might have been a little bit together. Certainly. Yeah. Star Trek. Obviously, I don't know. It's a good one to check.
Yeah, because it started the boom of science fiction and television, and I think as well as the impact it's had on kids, families, adults. I mean, you go to any Comic-Con or convention, which I do go to quite a few, and you've always got multiple people dressed up as Doctor Who, and the effort that's made.
I think because generations know it, so like say mum's, dad's, grandma, granddad's might know it, and then that's sort of gone down into generations. But because when they brought it back out, it made it seem like a brand new programme. Because I didn't even hear of Doctor Who when I was younger, but prior to the contemporary one restarting. And I think it's all because with each new season, there's new creatures, the prosthetics, the makeup is more advanced, the storyline's more advanced. So I think that'll bring new people in.
Just parts of the show are just instantly recognisable. Like, I don't know anyone nowadays would really know what a police box is. I mean, there's still a handful of them knocking about, but I don't think, like, when you see a police box, like a blue police box, that's a TARDIS. That's not a police box, that's a TARDIS, right? Just a weird sort of creature design, like a Dalek or something. Like, that's instantly recognisable. Like the I think back in the classic era, they did some like Dalek movies in and of themselves, I think with Peter Cushing in there, and that was just off the strength of how like popular the Dalek design was, and you know.
Attention, all Robomen! Attack the Daleks! This order cannot be countermanded! Attack the Daleks!
But like as well, like it just common phrases from like Doctor Who would just enter the public consciousness. Like even people who don't watch Doctor Who know that a TARDIS is something that travels in time that's bigger on the inside than on the outside. So people even who have no idea about Doctor Who whatsoever will know these core elements of the show. They'll know about it. They'll know, you know. And how many shows can you say that, you know? Like maybe Star Trek, you'd say Warp Drive or something, people understand that, but you know, how many, there's only a handful of shows that have that sort of cultural impact, I think.
To conclude, it may be fair to say that Doctor Who has indeed had a cultural impact of a moderate to significant nature.
Use your head, it's not like you've got a lot of alternatives, they're all here.
But the decision is yours, as the viewer. Either you're a Whovian like me, or you're just watching this documentary for the hell of it.
One confession
Either way, the decision is indeed yours to make.
And they have survived this long because they have the most perfect defense system ever evolved. They are quantum locked. They don't exist when they're being observed. The moment they are seen by any other living creature, they freeze into rock. No choices.
As we look forward to the 60th anniversary specials, with David Tennant returning as the 14th Doctor, and new Doctor Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor, coming in soon after. I'd like to thank you for watching this extensively long documentary, and bid you farewell, for this is not the end.
I've been sent here by the High Council to help you.
Trenzalore. We need a new destination, because I don't want to go.
He always says that.
Is it done?
You know, I really think you might.
I never forget a face.
I know you don't.
Can you hear them? All these people who lived in terror of you and your judgment. All these people whose ancestors devoted themselves, sacrificed themselves to you. Can you hear them singing? Oh, you like to think you're a god? You're not a god. You're just a parasite eaten out with jealousy and envy and longing for the lives of others.